Alright guys, welcome back to Death from Above 40k. Today I'm going over the new rendition of my Blood Angels list now that the new Space Marine Codex is out. We've all been rolled into one codex. We're all on the same page now. We're all waiting for our supplements. So for now, this is the list that I've come up with. In December when we get our new supplement, this will change again. So there'll be some people watching that are like, this looks a bit more Space Marine-y. That's because it comes from the Space Marine Codex. So some of our more individualized units and stuff like that, I don't know, aren't as effective just under the rules of the new Space Marine Codex, whereas a lot of the stratagems and stuff and new things sort of lean more towards the Space Marine based stuff. So, you know, like your Primaris and all that sort of stuff. So this is 1,500 points. It's a battalion. Have a quick go through the list of what I've put in it. And we'll break down, you know, the units and why I've chosen. So we've got Lieutenant, Mastercraft Power Sword. We've got Primaris Captain with his Power Sword and his Auto Bolt Rifle. We've got a Primaris Apothecary in there now. We've got 1, 2, 3 attack bikes. We've got 1, 2, 3 units of Primaris Space Marines, Intercessors. Then we've got a unit of Hellblasters, Librarian Dreadnought. At the back, we've got 2 Furioso Dreadnoughts on each side. And then we've got the big boy back in the list because, as far as I'm concerned, Redemptor Dreads now are a lot better than they were before. So, the whole idea of this list so far is, if you've been watching my battle reports, in 9th edition now, everything's all about board control. So you need to be able to cover a lot of space. You need to be able to cover it relatively quickly. And it's literally all about the objectives. The idea of blowing things up and killing and everything is sort of died with 8th edition. Like, you've still obviously got to kill things and that, but the aim of the game, if you want to win missions, is to just get on objectives and stay on the objectives. Aim for your secondaries. So one of the things when building a list like this is building it around your secondaries. That way, because a lot of games that I've played so far in this edition can be won purely off secondaries if you do it right. But that's covered more in the missions, because some of the missions have secondaries and stuff like that. But have a look into those sorts of things when you're building your list. We might go over a bit of it throughout this. One of the big ones that I look at when I take this list is like things like Supremacy, which is one where, you know, you're holding all the objectives on the table, which is really easy to do. There's a few other ones that hold more than your opponent, kill more than your opponent. I sort of aim for those ones because I tend to find that I can kill a lot of stuff and hold a lot of objectives, which works well for this list. So what we'll do is I'll go through each section of the army and run down why I've chosen the units that I have. And we'll start with HQs. All right, we'll get back to you in a second. Alright guys, let's go through some HQ choices I've chosen for the list. I've chosen to go for the 3 HQ choices. So we've got a Primaris Captain in there, we've got a Primaris Lieutenant in there, and we've got the Librarian Dreadnought. The reason that I haven't got Mephiston in here at this point in time, I just find that without the Blood Angel specific psychic powers, he's probably not as good, whereas the Librarian Dreadnought with some of the new rules for Dreadnoughts is a bit more effective. We've gone with the old Captain and Lieutenant because the reroll 1s to hit and the reroll 1s to wound is going to work well with the synergy of this type of army, which I find quite kind of handy. Quick note though, there is a stratagem now, so I think it's I've got my little thing here. It's the one that you use for the, what do you call it? Dreadnoughts. Sorry, had a bit of a mind boggle there. And what it does now is, it's Wisdom of the Ancients. So before it would just give you reroll 1s to hit, but now you can choose between reroll 1s to hit or reroll 1s to wound. So you don't get both for a stratagem, but if you're running a lot of Dreadnoughts, you can buff your army with either the Lieutenant or Captain aura through your Dreadnought. So something to note, if you're running a lot of Dreadnoughts, you need those rerolls 1 to hit or to wound. Dreadnoughts are your friend now. Yeah, so once we get our book, we'll go through Mephiston. But for now, I'll start with the Librarian Dreadnought and what I've chosen to take on him. So the 2 psychic powers, I'm going to go with Null Zone and Psychic Fortress. So he'll move up with the army. Null Zone allows him to ignore enemy invulnerable saves. So his halberd is AP4. So pretty much, if you're ignoring things like invulnerable saves, he's just going to carve through it. So that's sort of a pretty good, you know. It's also going to the other one here, Psychic Fortress, which gives an aura of 5 up invuln save. So if you've watched my battle reports before, you would know that I would often take Shield of Sanguinius, which is, you know, 1 unit, you get 5 up invuln save. This one's probably a little bit better in the respect that it's Warp Charge 6, which is pretty easy to achieve. And any friendly chapter unit within 6 of the Psyker models have a 5 up invulnerable save. So if you've got him in the middle of your intercessors and things like that, you're giving him, well, anything really. It just says, yeah, any unit within 6 of him gets a 5 up invuln. So, you know, if you think you're going to take heavy fire in that first round, it's kind of like the Orcs really. Incoming fire. If you've ever watched my Orcs on the channel, using your shields, good stuff. Alright, so he's in there. He's pretty much just going to be a beat stick that gives a few buffs. So that's kind of his thing. Get in there, chop things up, walk along. And Dreadnoughts now have Duty Eternal base. So it's always -1 to the damage. So if someone overcharges plasma on him or something like that, he's still only copping 1 wound as opposed to 2 wounds. But we'll talk a bit more about plasma in a minute because a lot of that's changed as well. Alright, so next we've got Primaris Captain. Now I think that these guys got an absolute crapload better now. So Primaris Captain's pretty good stats wise, but now his Power Sword is a master crafted Power Sword. Now Power Swords now get +1 strength and an AP3, which is really tasty on Blood Angels. Because when you charge in, you get +1 to wound. So strength 5 with a +1 to wound is good, and it's AP3 flat damage too. So you don't have to do Artisan of War or any of that jazz anymore on your Primaris Captain. He just comes that way. The other thing that I'm going to run him with, relic-wise, is the Bellicos Bolt Rifle. So that thing is a range 24, assault 4, strength 5, AP1, flat 2 damage. So that's a really good weapon. So this means he's going to, you know, be able to get around the battlefield, gunning down with the rest of the guys, and then he's got his sword to get in there and chop things up. Given the reroll one's alright, you can also buff these guys up to a chapter master or something like that. There's a few things that go with that. I haven't paid for the points for that, but if you do decide to go that route, there's a few things you can do in terms of you can take 1 unit gets full rerolls. So in your command phase, you can select a unit and it gets full rerolls, not just rerolls of 1, which is handy. And then there's another thing, it's a stratagem, I believe, and you can take or an upgrade for him. And at the start of each of your turns or in your command phase, you roll on a 4 up, you're getting a command point back. So if you want to go down the chapter master route, there is a lot of benefit to it. All right, next up we've got the Primaris Lieutenant. With his, he's also got a master crafted power sword. The second power sword's just for show, just because it looks cool. Now he's obviously going to give the reroll ones to wound, and his is a master crafted power sword too. So now he's in there with +1 strength, AP3 and flat 2 damage. So I used to run it with the auto bolt rifle, but now with the master crafted power sword being on him, it's hands down because he hits on a 2 up. So, you know, once again on the charge, he's going to be able to get in there and do some serious damage. Now these 3 of these will probably be very close to all the Primaris Marines, so that, you know, it's also going to make a bit of a deterrent because, you know, if they're in the middle of all the Primaris Marines and you want to come in for a bit of an assault, I don't know who wants to assault Blood Angels, but there are people out there that attempt it. These guys are going to jump out and be able to chop heaps of stuff up. So they're the 3 HQs that I've decided to go with. At this point, this could change moving forward, but remember, we're waiting for our supplement, so this is what we're doing at the moment. So next up, we'll go through troops, and I'll tell you why I've chosen them. Alright guys, here we go. We've got our troops choices. Nothing has changed here. I still state very strongly, best troop choice available to Blood Angels, Primaris Intercessors with auto bolt rifles and a Power Fist on the Sergeant. Power Fists just in this new book have come back out, and they're now just flat 2 damage. Everything else is the same. So they're still double your strength, AP3, flat 2 damage. This is insanely good. This makes it such an effective weapon. You know, you punch another Primaris Marine in the face, it's dead. You punch a Nob in the face, it's dead. You know, you want to attack a vehicle, you've got, you know, really solid output of damage. Now you got to remember that Blood Angels in the assault phase, these guys, like the sergeants are getting 5 attacks on the charge, and then their power fist goes to AP4. So it's just, it's brutal. It is -1 to hit, but with 5 attacks, you'll get 2 or 3 hits through, and that's all you really need on most things. You know, if you can do 6 damage or kill 6 Nobs, or sorry, kill 3 Nobs, kill thing, you know, it really sort of pans out in the end. But the other weapon, auto bolt rifles on these guys. Always, they've got 3 shots with the auto bolt rifle, range 24, and it's an assault weapon, so it plays into the rules of the Blood Angels. Remembering that Blood Angels get +1 to their advance and charge rolls. So when you're running around the field, this gun allows you to move quickly across the battlefield while still laying down fire. One 5-man unit is 15 shots. So even if you run and you're hitting on 4s, you're still spraying out 15 shots. Weight of numbers. Now, taking into account when you're, I'm saying run, I've been playing 40k too long. When you advance, you're always a minimum of 8 movement. Because you can't roll lower than a 1, it's +1. So, and then you've got a maximum movement of 13. So these guys will be moving 8 to 13 inches every turn whilst laying down fire with their guns. There's another thing to note as well. I'm painting up some assault intercessors for the army because I really like it, and yeah, it's a cool sort of thing. But I think it was years ago, like when I used to watch Wargamer Fritz, and I took a lot from one of his strategy videos where he said, if you've got a unit on the table, say an assault unit, and it spends 2 turns moving up the battlefield, not doing anything until it gets into assault, those points are wasted for 2 turns. There's just no other way around that. That's just how it is. That's why with these guys, you are constantly laying down a hail of fire. If they have to sit on an objective, you're not wasting, you know, a unit. They're still going to lay down fire. Lots of fire as well. If you come up against a horde army, these 5 units here, so 3 5-man units here, will just cut it down. It won't be any talking about. They'll just cut it down. When you get into the tactical doctrine too, it's pretty good. You get that AP1, which is nice, but it's more weight of numbers. Now there's also another stratagem in there that allows you to fire again with a unit. So that means that one of these units can be putting out 30 shots. That's a lot of strength for shooting, especially like if you do it in, like I said, in the tactical doctrine when it's AP1, you're just cutting through things. So I know that people say that, you know, incursors and infiltrators and scouts, well, scouts are now in the elites, go figure. But I'm just going to make the claim, best troops choice we have. There could be something to be said for like just normal tactical marines with bolt guns, just because they're nice and cheap. But once again, the key element is these guys' gun is an assault gun, so you can continually move, continually shoot, continually get around the board and do what needs to be done. There's never a time in the game where they can't be active, you know. And then obviously the power fist on the sergeant is just your Blood Angels, so that's what makes this unit an assault unit. You can still run in and punch things in the face. I get a lot of people say to me about, you know, you've got no assault in your army. These are assault units, people. They're Blood Angels. They get nearly as many attacks as like Death Company on the charge, but they're also got the auto bolt rifles. They've still got the power fist. Like, yeah, they don't have a jump pack, but they're also a troops choice. So when you say there's no assault, they are an assault unit. Inherently being a Blood Angel with the special rules of your army is what makes you an assault unit. Even these guys here in the tactical doctrine go to AP1 and they're getting the +1 to wound. Just the normal Primaris Marine is getting 4 attacks on the charge at AP1 with +1 to wound after laying down a withering hail of bolt fire. So take that into account. Do with it what you will. But I will be doing a review on the assault intercessors once I've got them painted up, because there is something to be said about them as well, but the delivery and a few other things is different. But yeah, for your main troops, this is the go. All right, next up we'll move on to the elites and what I've chosen. We'll get back to you in a sec. Alright guys, here we go, the elites section. So obviously you can take more elites than anything else in your army. And I've taken 4. So a lot more dreadnoughts. as I discussed in the start, we'll quickly go over the Duty Eternal Dreadnought rule again. Means that Dreadnoughts take 1 less damage from things. So if something hits you that's usually damage 3, it's now damage 2. Damage 2 becomes damage 1. D6 damage, whatever they roll, is -1. So on and so forth. So it really helps Dreadnoughts just overall, really. I can see some good lists like things like Iron Hands and stuff like that are really going to love the crap out of this, especially with all their tech marines running around fixing things up. Good luck removing Dreadnoughts off the battlefield. But that's neither here nor there, because this is the Blood Angels army. So, we have different Dreadnoughts. We've got Furioso Dreadnoughts, which have got 2 of, so we'll go through them first. They've stayed relatively the same. They got their frag cannons, they got their power fist, and I take the heavy flamers. The whole idea is, with these, if you've been watching the battle reports, I really use these guys for board control and to keep the opponent guessing. So I put them in reserves. I think it's called, reserves. I'm going to call it reserves. They've changed a lot of names in the new edition, and I'm still coming to terms with some of it. When you play through as many editions of 40k as I have, this will tend to happen. But yeah, so your frag cannon is 2d6, strength 6, AP 1, auto hitting. It's a blast weapon now too, so you can't fire it in combat, but you know, if you come outflanking off the side and there's a big rabble of orcs or something, you are going to blow chunks out of them, no doubt. You've also got the heavy flame underneath, which is strength 5, AP 1, flat 1 damage. So the whole idea is you come on from the side and they've got a massive amount of auto hitting DACA to just slice into things. Now, a note too that the frag cannon is an assault weapon. So when you come on in turn 2 from reserve, it goes to AP 2, which is really handy. So you kind of get it jacked up. So those 2d6 shots are going to be strength 6, AP 2, which is just a nice little buff there. Thank you, GW, for all these little buffs that Marines get. Might have to fix a few other armies up so they can keep up or whatever. You know, they got their fist, which is strength 12, AP 3, flat 3 damage. They get 5 attacks on the charge. Little bonus you can do is you can see on the top, they got the Magna Grapples. So if you've got someone like Tau or something that's a gunline army, you come on from the side, the Magna Grapple gives you, I think it's +3. It's either +2 or +3 to your, I think it's +3. And then the Blood Angels get a natural +1. So if they've got a vehicle and you come on from the edge, you've got a really good chance of charging it. So you can come on, spray a heap of like lighter stuff with your anti-infantry weapon, then run into a vehicle and give it some watts 4. So these guys are only 8 wounds, so they don't degrade on the battlefield, which is good, but the Duty Eternal will keep them alive a bit longer. So that's why they're in there. In front, we got the Apothecary. You've probably been watching the internet. I was already running an Apothecary. I was running the Sangry Priest. Pretty successfully last codex. I was nearly going to say last edition, but last codex. Really good for reviving guys and stuff now, but there's no more rolling now. You just, if you want to revive a guy, it's just a stratagem. Pick him back up, you know, and then you can now buff him up to be a chief Apothecary, and then you can do things twice. So you can pick a guy up and heal another guy, all sorts of stuff. So you can really start to keep units alive. Like if you got well, things like Primaris Marines, Hellblasters, all that sort of stuff, it makes it very difficult for your opponent when you're healing them back up and getting them back alive and all that sort of stuff. I've gone with the Primaris version because I've just painted him up and I'm pretty happy with him, but he's looking fresh. I'll get the Sangry Priests back out when we get our supplement, because I feel like it's just easier to stick with things that are in the codex for now. I know these guys aren't in the codex, but they're really straightforward units to use, and I don't want to flick through too many books. So he's in there literally to just heal up characters, bring things back, all that sort of stuff. And you'll probably see a lot of people are running multiples of these just to do mass spam of keeping things alive. At the back, Redemptor Dreadnought. There's a few things about him that's changed that's for the better. First things first, he's got Duty Eternal as well now, so it'll help him stay alive a bit longer. His fist used to be D6 damage. It's now flat 3 damage plus D3, so minimum of 4, maximum of 6. That's so much better. I don't know how many times I've ran in with this massive Dreadnought and like done 1 wound on something. It was just disappointing considering these guys were always flat 3 damage, and look at the size of him compared to them. Come on mate, pull your weight. So that's a good change. His Onslaught Gatling Cannon's gone up to 8 shots, the one that's under his fist, which is nice as well. The other thing though is, I've put the Macro Plasma Incinerator back on, because that thing just got a really nice buff this edition. So it's now naturally strength 8 AP4 but flat 2 damage, so you don't overcharge it, and it's a blast weapon as well, so it's still D6 shots, but blast weapons now are much more effective. If you've read the rules on them, you know, the bigger the unit you're shooting at, the more shots you'll get naturally. But now also if you overcharge it, it goes to strength 9 flat 3 damage, and it's AP4 still. So that is just, will be AP5 turn 1 if you really want to go down that road as well. It's range 36, but that's just solid anti-tank, you know, if you're fighting other Marines, that's blasting aggressors, and, you know, really just, you're not having to worry about killing stuff. It's just, yeah. I mean, the Onslaught Gatling Cannon is also a nice option. Lots of shots, lots of DACA, but I don't feel like this army needs any more DACA. So it's nice to have a Dreadnought with a big ass gun that just blows chunks through things. Other benefit is now vehicles don't suffer the penalty of -1 to hit when they move. So he's always going to be hitting on his 3+ unless he degrades. And because these Dreadnoughts are all core units, they all buff from the reroll 1s to hit and wound off the Sergeant and the Captain. So there's some good buffs there. So Redemptor Dreadnoughts, I'm thinking, might make a good return this edition. I'm hoping so. It's a really cool model. Make sure though, when you put them in your chapter, you're shining them up with stuff, you know. Don't just stick to the boring look of them. Put some wings on them, put some things on them, make them represent your chapter. So that's why I've chosen them. Lots of Dreadnoughts. Love Dreadnoughts, and they've made Dreadnoughts better. Good job, GW, on that one. Alright, so that's the elites. Next we'll go through the fast attack and what I've chosen there. Alright guys, fast attack, and my attack bikes are making a return. If you watched the last couple of battle reports that I had before the new codex, you were seeing that these things were very effective in holding objectives, covering ground, moving around, getting things like, you know, secondaries, all that sort of stuff. And they just got better this edition. So if you got some attack bikes, whip them out. And either version is good now. So they're pretty fast with 14-inch movement. They got 4 wounds. They're pretty cheap. They're coming in like 60 points or something like that. The way I've got them, 60 or 70 points. Not much to pay for them. A lot of people like the ATVs. They're also a good option as well. But I already had these and painted them up, so they're in the list. Now the key thing to note with these is multi-melters just got an absolute crap load better. So beforehand, multi-melters were just single shot weapons. Now they're 2-shot weapons. And if you're in half range, they're D6 plus 2. So it's not 2D6 pick the highest anymore. It's D6 plus 2, so a much better weapon. So these will now actually fill a pretty handy primary role of anti-tank as well. So 3 of these zipping around with 2 shots, like, you know, you get up close to something, a Rhino or Razorback, you have a good chance of melting it in one round, because straight off the bat, if you get 2 hits and 2 wounds, it's AP4, you're going to ignore their armor, that's it, and you're going to do a minimum of 4 damage plus 2d6. You know, Rhino's only got 11 wounds, so you got to have pretty bad rolls to not be melting vehicles like that now. You know, even bigger vehicles like, you know, the new Repulsors and some of the battle wagons and Knights and all that sort of stuff are probably going to suffer pretty bad from multi-melters now. Makes them a much more viable choice. Didn't make much sense to take them before being single shot weapons on a lot of things, because you have the las cannon there. So that thing's range 48. Why would you get up close when you could just sit back and nuke things? But now, they don't suffer the penalty for moving or shooting because it's a bike, which is nice. So you're always hitting on 3s. They got twin bolters on the front too, which is handy. So it gives you some good shooting option for what they are. The amount of wounds, speed, DACA, brilliant. Like, yeah, they've also got the special rule that you know, if you advance, they get an auto advance 6. So say you don't want to shoot for a turn and really get to an objective, you got a 20-inch movement, which is really nice. Being 3 units, small wounds and stuff like that, I've found that it really splits up enemy fire too, because I've got so many units zipping around the board and firing and doing all kinds of carnage. With units like these, it really throws off people's target priority. You know, they see things like Redemptor Dreads and think, oh no, the Redemptor Dread, and then they don't shoot at these things, and then these things start capturing all the objectives. But then, you know, you turn 2, turn 3, you've started to whittle down their return fire, and it makes it harder for them to remove things like that now. So there's some really good play in these things. Speed is of the essence. And this is the speed that I choose to take. Like I said, land speed is good. There's a lot of good options, but these ones are good, and they're the ones that I've chosen to go with. So get yourself some attack bikes, whack a multi-melter on it. The other thing too is heavy bolters now damage 2. So these with a heavy bolter on it would also be handy because, you know, in the first turn that's going to be strength 5, 3 shots, AP 2, flat 2 damage. So there's something to be said for that as well. Makes them a little bit cheaper again. So if you want to run a cheap attack bike, you know, with just for more objective capturing and stuff, the heavy bolter is also a brilliant option. I'm sticking with the multi-melters, but you do you. Alright, there you go. So that's the fast attack and why I've chosen. Just go watch the battle reports. It'll bloody speak for itself. You should be watching them anyway. Alright, we'll go through the last part of the army, which is the heavy support. We'll get back to you in a sec. Alright guys, here's the last part of the army, my heavy support option. Now I've chosen to go with Hellblasters, and I've chosen the Assault Incinerator version. I'm pretty sure it's the Assault Incinerator. Now, I was already running the Assault version because same thing with Blood Angels again. It means that you can run and fire, so it keeps them very mobile while they're shooting, whether retreating, going forward, it don't matter. You can keep them on the move. Now, there was a key thing that I had to read over a few times to make sure my eyes were working. These things are now Assault 3. Not Assault 2 like they were, Assault 3. So they've matched it with the Assault Bolt Rifle. Those are a ridiculous amount of shots. These things start off at Strength 6, AP 4, 1 damage. 15 shots for that unit. So even, you know, with a sergeant and a captain nearby, re-rolling ones with Marines accuracy and... You know, there's even some other little things you can do. We give them a free reroll if you had the chapter master, and you can also, there's some litanies and stuff that help with your shooting and all that jazz. Ridiculous. You know, you can have these guys hitting on a 2, rerolling 1, and then rerolling 1s to wound with 15 shots. If you overcharge them, they go to strength 7, AP 4, flat 2 damage. There's an argument to be made for all the new plasma guns, but this volume of fire, like once again, when I was saying I don't really need any anti-horde, because this can be used for anti-horde as well. Since when was plasma used for anti-horde? Well, now it is. But you can also nuke a vehicle. You know, 15 shots you lay into a vehicle with all the rerolls that you can buff these guys with. You're going to slag a vehicle. It's just going to be molten shit. Nothing left of it. So I've chosen to go with this because there's a few things as well. You know, you've got the rerolls. You've got the Apothecary. There might be something said for having a bigger unit of them. I don't like going over units of 5. A, for coherency. B, I don't like taking morale tests. It's not my thing. I'd prefer to just not do it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so this is just another fire support unit that, which is a massive amount of shots really. There's a few weapons in the new codex I had to read through. I think accelerator auto cannons are 3 shots too as well now. So, you know, things like that. It's pretty good. So that's the army. That's what I'm using. 1,500 points. I think it's good. We'll do some battle reports and see if all the crap that I just talked can be backed up. Alright guys, hopefully this helps out. And as I said, when the new supplement comes out, we'll cover some more. Alright guys, catch you soon.